In a small, sleepy town surrounded by lush green fields and winding dirt roads, there lived a young man named Leo. He was only 24, but had already earned a reputation as one of the best mechanics in the area. His garage, tucked away at the edge of the main road, wasn't much to look at. A modest structure with faded paint and a rusty sign that read, Leo's Auto Repair. But what it lacked in appearance, it made up for in service. Leo was known not just for his skill with cars but also for his kindness. Unlike many others who charged exorbitant fees for repairs, Leo often went out of his way to help those in need, even if they couldn't afford to pay him. Every morning, Leo would roll up the metal shutter of his garage and step outside to take a deep breath of fresh air. The smell of oil and grease mixed with the crisp breeze always energized him. On this particular day, however, something unusual caught his attention. A loud sputtering noise echoed down the street, growing louder with each passing second. Moments later, an old sedan limped into view, coughing clouds of black smoke. Behind the wheel sat an elderly man with silver hair and weary eyes. He pulled over right in front of Leo's garage and stepped out slowly, leaning heavily on a cane. The man introduced himself as Mr. Harold. His voice trembled slightly as he explained that his car had broken down again, leaving him stranded. "I've been trying to save money for repairs," he said, wringing his hands nervously. "But lately, things haven't been easy." He went on to share how mounting medical bills had drained his savings, leaving little room for luxuries like fixing his aging vehicle. As he spoke, Leo noticed the worry lines etched deeply into the man's face. It was clear that Mr. Harold depended on this car, not just for transportation but for his sense of independence. Without hesitation, Leo assured the man that everything would be all right. "Don't worry, sir," he said warmly, placing a reassuring hand on Mr. Harold's shoulder. "Let me take a look at it. We'll get your car running again." With that, Leo got to work. He popped open the hood and immediately spotted several issues. The engine was clogged, the battery was weak, and some parts needed urgent replacement. Normally, such extensive repairs would cost a significant amount, but Leo didn't mention any of that. Instead, he focused on the task at hand, determined to restore the car to its former glory. Over the next few days, Leo poured all his energy into fixing Mr. Harold's sedan. He worked long hours, skipping meals and staying late into the evening. Neighbors passing by would often stop to chat, marveling at his dedication. Some offered to lend a hand, but Leo politely declined, insisting that he wanted to do this himself. What truly set him apart was his refusal to accept payment. When Mr. Harold tried to offer whatever little he had saved, Leo shook his head firmly. "This is my way of helping you, sir," he said with a gentle smile. "If you really want to repay me, just promise to pass on the kindness someday." Unbeknownst to Leo, someone else was watching him closely. Across the street, parked discreetly behind tinted windows, sat a sleek black sedan. Inside was Marcus Reed, the CEO of one of the largest automobile manufacturing companies in the country. Dressed casually in jeans and a leather jacket, Marcus blended seamlessly into the surroundings. No one suspected that beneath his unassuming demeanor lay a man worth billions. Marcus had come to this quiet town incognito, hoping to observe local mechanics at work. His company was planning to expand its community outreach programs and needed real-world insights to shape their initiatives. As he watched Leo interact with Mr. Harold, Marcus felt a pang of admiration. Here was a young man working tirelessly, without expecting anything in return. There was no pretense, no ulterior motive, just pure sincerity. Intrigued, Marcus decided to stick around longer. Over the following days, he observed Leo from afar, noting how he treated every customer with respect and care. Whether it was replacing a flat tire for a struggling single mother or teaching neighborhood kids how to fix their bicycles, Leo radiated warmth and compassion. Each act of kindness seemed effortless yet profound. One afternoon, while Leo was taking a break outside his garage, Marcus decided to approach him. Walking over casually, he introduced himself as Mark, a traveling businessman interested in learning more about the auto repair industry. They struck up a conversation, during which Leo shared his passion for cars and his belief in giving back to the community. "It's simple, really," Leo explained, wiping grease-stained hands on a rag. If we all helped each other, even in small ways, the world would be a better place. Marcus nodded thoughtfully, impressed by the mechanic's unwavering optimism. That evening, as Marcus returned to his hotel, he couldn't shake off the image of Leo bending over an engine, his brow furrowed in concentration. The young mechanic's actions reminded him of why he had started his company in the first place, to make a difference. Yet somewhere along the line, amidst board meetings and profit margins, he had lost sight of that Shushin. Inspired by what he had witnessed, Marcus began drafting plans for a new initiative aimed at supporting grassroots mechanics like Leo. The program would provide resources, training, and financial assistance to individuals making a positive impact in their communities. Meanwhile, life continued as usual for Leo. He remained blissfully unaware of the ripple effect his kindness had created. Days turned into weeks, and Mr. Harold's car was finally ready. When the elderly man came to pick it up, tears welled up in his eyes. "You've done more than fix my car, son," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "You've given me hope." Leo simply smiled, brushing off the praise. For him, it was just another day at the garage, another opportunity to help someone in need. Little did he know, fate had bigger plans in store. One evening, as Leo was closing up shop, a familiar figure approached him. It was Marcus, still dressed casually but now carrying an air of purpose. This time he revealed his true identity. Standing under the dim glow of the streetlight, Marcus explained why he had been observing Leo and shared his vision for the new initiative. At first, Leo was stunned, unsure if he deserved such recognition. But Marcus reassured him, emphasizing that true leadership isn't always about grand gestures. It's about consistent acts of compassion. Together, they finalized details for the program, which would soon bear Leo's name. News of the initiative spread quickly, turning the humble mechanic into a symbol of hope and generosity. Yet through it all, Leo remained grounded, never forgetting the lesson he learned from helping Mr. Harold. Even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward, touching lives far beyond what we imagine. And so, life carried on, with Leo continuing to serve his community from the same little garage, proving that no matter how big you become, staying true to yourself is what truly matters. As the days passed, Leo continued to immerse himself in his work, unaware of the growing admiration Marcus had for him. The Undercover CEO spent hours observing not just Leo but also the people who came to his garage. Each interaction painted a vivid picture of the mechanic's character. One afternoon, a young mother arrived with her children in tow. Her car had broken down on the way to school, and she was visibly stressed, juggling her kids while trying to figure out what to do next. Without missing a beat, Leo greeted her warmly and assured her that everything would be fine. He quickly diagnosed the issue, a faulty alternator, and set to work repairing it. While he worked, he kept an eye on the children, handing them snacks from a small box he kept in the corner of the garage. When the repair was complete, the woman hesitated before reaching for her wallet. "How much do I owe you?" she asked nervously. Leo waved her off, saying, "Don't worry about it this time. Just make sure your kids get to school safely." The gratitude in her eyes was unmistakable, and Marcus watched silently, jotting notes in a small notebook. Another day, a group of teenagers approached the garage, pushing their bicycles. They were eager to learn how to fix flat tires and adjust brakes. Instead of turning them away, Leo welcomed them with open arms. He spent the entire afternoon teaching them basic repairs, sharing tips and tricks he had learned over the years. To Marcus, it was clear that Leo wasn't just fixing machines. He was building connections, fostering trust, and empowering others. These moments weren't extraordinary by any means, but they carried a profound simplicity that resonated deeply with Marcus. What struck Marcus most was how Leo treated everyone equally, regardless of their background or financial situation. Rich or poor, old or young, each person who walked into the garage left feeling valued and respected. It was a stark contrast to the corporate world Marcus inhabited, where decisions were often driven by numbers rather than humanity. Watching Leo reminded him of why he had started his company, to create opportunities and improve lives. Somewhere along the way, those ideals had been overshadowed by the relentless pursuit of profit. Determined to understand more, Marcus began visiting the town regularly, blending into the surroundings as he observed Leo's daily routine. He noticed how the mechanic always greeted passers-by with a smile, offering advice even to those who didn't need repairs. On one occasion, a farmer stopped by to ask about maintaining his tractor. Though tractors weren't exactly Leo's area of expertise, he took the time to research and provide useful recommendations. The farmer left with a renewed sense of confidence, thanking Leo profusely. Marcus also saw glimpses of Leo's personal life. In the evenings, after closing the garage, the young mechanic would sit outside on a wooden bench, sipping tea and chatting with neighbors. He seemed content, despite leading a modest lifestyle. His home was a tiny apartment above the garage, furnished with second-hand items and decorated with photographs of family and friends. There was no hint of extravagance, yet Leo radiated happiness. This simplicity intrigued Marcus, who had grown accustomed to luxury and privilege. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Marcus decided to approach Leo again. This time, he brought along a bottle of soda and 2 paper cups, hoping to strike up a casual conversation. Sitting beside Leo on the bench, he poured the drinks and introduced himself once more as Mark. They talked about everything from cars to childhood memories, and Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the mechanic's company. Leo spoke passionately about his dream of opening a community center where people could learn practical skills like car maintenance, woodworking, and gardening. "I've always believed that knowledge should be shared freely," Leo said, his eyes lighting up. "If we teach people how to take care of things themselves, they won't have to rely on others for every little problem. It gives them a sense of independence." Marcus nodded thoughtfully, realizing that Leo's vision aligned perfectly with his own goals for the outreach program. But instead of revealing his plans, he simply listened, absorbing every word. Over time, Marcus became a familiar face around the garage. He helped out occasionally, fetching tools or holding parts steady while Leo worked. The townsfolk assumed he was just another traveler passing through, and no one suspected his true identity. For Marcus, these interactions were humbling. He had spent decades surrounded by executives and stakeholders, discussing strategies and projections, yet here he was, learning valuable lessons from a young man whose wealth lay not in material possessions, but in his generosity and spirit. Despite his growing admiration for Leo, Marcus wrestled with doubts. Could someone so humble adapt to the pressures of a large-scale initiative? Would Leo's values remain intact if thrust into the spotlight? These questions lingered in his mind as he continued to observe. One day he witnessed a moment that erased all uncertainty. A local teenager named Jake, who had recently dropped out of school, came to the garage looking dejected. He confessed that he felt lost and unsure of his future. Leo listened patiently, then offered him a job as an apprentice. "You don't need fancy degrees to succeed," Leo told Jake. "All you need is determination and a willingness to learn. I'll teach you everything I know, and together, we'll build something meaningful." Jake's face lit up with hope, and Marcus realized that Leo's influence extended far beyond fixing cars. He was shaping lives, instilling confidence, and creating opportunities where none existed. As weeks turned into months, Marcus finalized the details of his initiative. He envisioned a network of garages across the country, modeled after Leo's, where skilled mechanics could serve their communities while mentoring the next generation. Training programs, scholarships, and resource kits would be provided to ensure sustainability. The project would bear Leo's name, honoring the man who had inspired it all. But before launching it publicly, Marcus knew he had to reveal his true identity to Leo. The night he chose to do so was quiet, with only the sound of crickets filling the air. Marcus stood outside the garage waiting for Leo to finish cleaning up. When the mechanic finally emerged, wiping his hands on a rag, Marcus stepped forward. "Leo, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. For the first time, he revealed his real name and position, explaining why he had been watching him and sharing his plans for the initiative. At first, Leo was speechless, overwhelmed by the revelation. He looked at Marcus, then back at his garage, struggling to process what he had just heard. "But why me?" he asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Because you embody the values we want to promote: kindness, humility, and a genuine desire to help others. You've shown us that success isn't measured by wealth, but by the impact we have on those around us." Tears welled up in Leo's eyes, but he quickly blinked them away. "I'm just doing what feels right," he murmured. Marcus chuckled softly. "And that's exactly why you're perfect for this." Together they discussed the logistics of the program, ensuring that it stayed true to Leo's vision. By the end of the conversation, Leo felt a renewed sense of purpose. Though he never sought recognition, he understood the importance of using his platform to inspire others. Word of the initiative spread rapidly, drawing attention from media outlets and industry leaders alike. Leo became an overnight sensation, hailed as a symbol of grassroots innovation and compassion. Yet amidst the accolades and interviews, he remained unchanged. Every morning, he still rolled up the metal shutter of his garage, ready to greet whoever needed help. For Leo, nothing had truly changed. His mission remained the same: to serve his community and remind people that even the smallest acts of kindness can change the world. The announcement of the nationwide initiative bearing Leo's name sent ripples through the small town. At first, many residents were skeptical. How could someone like Leo, who lived such a quiet and unassuming life, suddenly become the face of a major corporate program? But as details emerged about Marcus Reed's vision and how it aligned with Leo's values, the skepticism gave way to pride. The townsfolk rallied around him, celebrating not just his newfound fame but also the fact that he had remained unchanged despite it all. Leo himself struggled to adjust to the sudden attention. Reporters began showing up at his garage, cameras in hand, eager to capture his story. Television crews set up equipment outside, turning the once quiet street into a bustling hub of activity. Neighbors and customers watched curiously as Leo patiently answered questions, always deflecting praise and emphasizing the importance of community over individual achievement. "This isn't about me," he would say repeatedly. "It's about what we can do together." Despite the chaos, Leo continued his work as usual. Each morning, he woke up early, brewed a pot of strong coffee, and headed downstairs to open the garage. The sight of reporters milling about didn't deter him. If anything, it motivated him to stay grounded. He knew that people were watching, not just in his town but across the country. And he wanted to show them that kindness wasn't something reserved for special occasions. It was a way of life. As part of the initiative, Marcus arranged for Leo to travel to other towns and cities, to meet local mechanics and share his philosophy. These trips were eye-opening for Leo, who had never ventured far beyond his hometown. In each place he visited, he found stories that mirrored his own: a young woman running a repair shop out of her garage to support her family, a retired engineer, teaching kids how to build robots from scrap parts, a single father using his skills to provide free services to struggling neighbors. Their resilience and generosity inspired him, reinforcing his belief in the power of collective effort. One particularly memorable visit took him to a bustling city where pollution and traffic congestion were constant problems. There, he met a group of volunteers working tirelessly to convert old vehicles into eco-friendly models. They lacked funding and resources but compensated with sheer determination. When Leo arrived, they greeted him like a long-lost friend, eager to learn from his experiences. Over several days, he worked alongside them, sharing techniques and offering advice. In return, they taught him innovative ways to reduce waste and promote sustainability. These interactions deepened Leo's understanding of the challenges faced by communities outside his own. He realized that while the specifics might differ, urban versus rural settings, economic disparities, cultural nuances, the underlying issues were universal. People everywhere craved connection, opportunity, and hope, and they looked to leaders like Leo to guide them towards solutions. Back home, the impact of the initiative was already being felt. Thanks to Marcus's company, Leo's garage received funding to expand its facilities and hire additional staff. A new wing was added to accommodate training programs for aspiring mechanics, complete with state-of-the-art tools and equipment. Local schools partnered with the garage to offer vocational courses, giving students hands-on experience in automotive repair and maintenance. Even Jake, the teenager who had once felt lost and directionless, flourished under Leo's mentorship. Within months, he became one of the most skilled apprentices, earning praise from both customers and peers. But perhaps the most significant change occurred within the community itself. Inspired by Leo's example, residents began organizing projects to address local needs. Some started a garden to grow fresh produce for families in need. Others launched a tutoring program to help children improve their grades. Slowly but surely, the spirit of collaboration spread, transforming the town into a model of self-sufficiency and mutual support. Marcus, too, underwent a transformation during this time. Observing Leo's unwavering commitment to his principles reminded him of why he had entered the business world in the first place, to create meaningful change. For years, he had allowed himself to be consumed by profit margins and market trends, losing sight of the human element. Now, working alongside Leo, reignited his passion for innovation, driven by empathy. He began implementing similar initiatives within his company, encouraging employees to volunteer their time and expertise to underserved communities. Their partnership evolved into a friendship built on mutual respect and shared goals. Marcus often joined Leo at the garage, rolling up his sleeves to assist with repairs or simply chatting with customers. To the townsfolk, it was surreal to see a billionaire CEO mingling with ordinary folks, yet Marcus fit right in. His down-to-earth demeanor and genuine interest in people's lives won him their trust and admiration. One evening, as they sat on the wooden bench outside the garage, Marcus turned to Leo and said, "You've changed my perspective on leadership. It's not about titles or wealth. It's about making a difference." Leo chuckled softly. "I think you're giving me too much credit. I'm just doing what comes naturally." Marcus shook his head. "That's exactly the point. You don't overthink it. You act from the heart, and that's rare." As the weeks passed, the initiative gained momentum, attracting participants from all walks of life. Mechanics, engineers, educators, and entrepreneurs came together to form a network dedicated to empowering communities through skill sharing and resource allocation. Stories of success poured in from across the country. Stories of broken-down cars restored to life, abandoned lots transformed into thriving gardens, and individuals discovering newfound purpose. Through it all, Leo remained the anchor, the steady force guiding the movement forward. He traveled extensively, speaking at conferences and workshops, always emphasizing the importance of humility and compassion. Yet no matter how far he went, he always returned to his garage, to the place where it all began. For him, it was more than just a workspace. It was a sanctuary, a reminder of who he was and what he stood for. Even as his schedule grew busier, Leo made time for those who needed him most. Whether it was fixing a neighbor's lawnmower late at night or comforting a distraught customer, worried about car troubles, he approached every task with the same level of care and dedication. People marveled at his ability to balance fame with authenticity, to remain approachable despite his growing influence. One day, an elderly woman named Mrs. Thompson walked into the garage, clutching a photo album. She had heard about Leo's story and wanted to thank him personally. Flipping through the pages, she showed him pictures of her late husband, who had been a mechanic himself. "He would have loved meeting you," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. "You remind me. So much of him, kind, hardworking, and full of heart." Leo accepted the compliment graciously, feeling humbled by the comparison. Such moments reinforced Leo's belief that his journey was bigger than himself. It wasn't about accolades or recognition. It was about creating a legacy of kindness that others could carry forward. As he looked around the garage, now buzzing with activity and laughter, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This was what mattered, helping people find joy, purpose, and hope in the simplest of acts. And so life continued, with Leo serving as both a leader and a listener, a teacher and a student. He embraced his role without arrogance or hesitation, knowing that true greatness lay not in standing above others but in lifting them up. Through his actions, he proved that even the smallest gestures, fixing a car, sharing a meal, lending an ear, could spark a chain reaction of positivity. Touching lives far beyond what anyone could imagine. As the initiative continued to grow, Leo found himself at the center of a movement that was spreading faster than he had ever imagined. The stories of change and transformation kept pouring in from different corners of the country, each one unique, yet connected by a common thread: hope. Mechanics who had struggled to make ends meet were now thriving thanks to the resources and training provided by the program. Communities once divided by distrust and hardship were coming together, united by shared goals and mutual support. Despite the overwhelming success, Leo remained cautious. He knew that with growth came challenges, and he didn't want the essence of what they were building to get lost in the process. Every decision, no matter how small, was made with careful consideration. When Marcus suggested expanding the initiative internationally, Leo hesitated. "We need to focus on getting it right here first," he said firmly. "If we rush, we risk losing the personal touch that makes this work." Marcus respected Leo's perspective and agreed to take things slowly. Together, they devised a plan to ensure that the program remained sustainable and impactful. They introduced mentorship programs where experienced mechanics could guide newcomers, fostering a culture of learning and collaboration. They also established feedback loops, encouraging participants to share their experiences and suggest improvements. This approach not only strengthened the initiative, but also deepened its roots within the communities it served. One of the most significant milestones came when a group of former apprentices decided to open their own garage inspired by Leo's model. Located in a low-income neighborhood, the new facility quickly became a lifeline for residents who previously had no access to affordable repairs. What set it apart was its commitment to education. Every customer who walked through the door was invited to observe the repair process and learn basic maintenance skills. Within months, the garage transformed into more than just a place to fix cars. It became a hub for empowerment and innovation. Leo visited the site shortly after its launch, eager to see the impact firsthand. As he toured the facility, he was struck by the sense of pride and ownership among the staff and patrons. A young girl, barely 10 years old, approached him shyly and asked if she could someday become a mechanic like him. Her dream was simple, yet profound: to help her family and neighbors by fixing their vehicles. Leo knelt down to her level, looked her in the eye, and said, "Of course you can. If you believe in yourself and work hard, there's nothing you can't achieve." That moment stayed with Leo long after he left the garage. It reminded him why he had started this journey, not for recognition or accolades, but to inspire others to dream bigger and aim higher. He realized that his role wasn't just about fixing cars or mentoring apprentices. It was about planting seeds of possibility in people's hearts, seeds that would grow into trees of opportunity, sheltering entire communities under their branches. Back in his hometown, life carried on as usual, though the pace had undoubtedly quickened. The expanded facilities at Leo's garage attracted visitors from neighboring towns and even other states. Some came seeking repairs, while others hoped to learn from the man who had sparked a nationwide movement. Regardless of their reasons, everyone left feeling inspired. Leo's ability to connect with people on a personal level was unmatched. He listened without judgment, offered advice without condescension, and treated everyone with dignity and respect. Even as his responsibilities grew, Leo never neglected the little things that mattered most. He still greeted customers by name, remembered their preferences, and checked in on them regularly. For him, these gestures weren't trivial. They were the foundation of trust and loyalty. One day, an elderly man named Mr. Peterson arrived at the garage, visibly upset. His car had broken down again, and he feared it was beyond repair. Leo immediately sprang into action, diagnosing the issue and assuring the man that everything would be fine. As he worked, he engaged Mr. Peterson in conversation, learning about his struggles and offering words of encouragement. By the time the car was fixed, the man's spirits had lifted significantly. Such moments were a testament to Leo's enduring compassion. No matter how busy he got, he always made time for those who needed him. His kindness wasn't limited to his garage, either. On weekends, he volunteered at local shelters, helping repair donated items and teaching residents valuable skills. He believed that giving back should extend beyond one's immediate circle, touching lives wherever possible. Meanwhile, Marcus continued to play a pivotal role in the initiative's success. Though he spent less time in the small town, he remained deeply involved, attending meetings and overseeing operations remotely. His admiration for Leo only grew stronger as he witnessed the mechanic's unwavering dedication. One evening during a video call, Marcus remarked, "You know, Leo, I've met many leaders in my life, but none quite like you. You lead not by authority, but by example." Leo smiled modestly. "I'm no leader, Marcus. I'm just someone trying to do the right thing." Marcus shook his head. "That's exactly what makes you a true leader. Leadership isn't about titles or power. It's about inspiring others to be better versions of themselves." Their bond had evolved into something rare and special, a friendship rooted in mutual respect and shared values. While their backgrounds couldn't have been more different, they complemented each other perfectly. Marcus brought vision and resources, while Leo provided heart and authenticity. Together, they formed a dynamic duo capable of achieving extraordinary things. As the months passed, the initiative began receiving global attention. International organizations reached out, hoping to replicate the model in their own countries. Journalists flocked to the small town, eager to document the phenomenon, known as Leo's legacy. Yet despite the spotlight, the core message remained unchanged. Kindness and community are the keys to lasting change. One of the most poignant examples of this philosophy came when a natural disaster struck a nearby city. Floodwaters destroyed countless homes and vehicles, leaving thousands stranded. Without hesitation, Leo mobilized a team of volunteers, loading trucks with tools, supplies, and spare parts. For weeks they worked tirelessly, repairing cars and providing free services to affected families. Their efforts didn't go unnoticed. Soon, other towns joined in, forming a chain of solidarity that stretched across the region. When the crisis finally subsided, Leo stood amidst the wreckage, surveying the damage. Though exhausted, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The experience reinforced his belief that humanity shines brightest in times of adversity. It also highlighted the importance of preparation and resilience, lessons he vowed to incorporate into future projects. Upon returning home, Leo faced a new challenge: burnout. The constant travel, media appearances, and mounting responsibilities had taken a toll on him physically and emotionally. For the first time, he questioned whether he was cut out for such a demanding role. Marcus noticed the change immediately and insisted that Leo take a break. "You can't pour from an empty cup," he said gently. "Rest isn't selfish, it's necessary." Reluctantly, Leo agreed. He spent a week away from the garage, retreating to a quiet cabin nestled in the hills. There, surrounded by nature, he reflected on his journey, the highs and lows, the triumphs and doubts. By the end of his retreat, he emerged refreshed and reinvigorated, ready to face whatever lay ahead. What struck Leo most during this period of reflection was the realization that he wasn't alone. Countless individuals, from Marcus to his apprentices, to the strangers he had helped, had contributed to the initiative's success. It wasn't his story. It was theirs. And that thought filled him with gratitude and humility. With renewed energy, Leo returned to his work, determined to keep pushing boundaries and breaking barriers. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that as long as he stayed true to his values, he could overcome any obstacle. For Leo, the journey was far from over. Each day presented a new opportunity to make a difference, to remind people that even the smallest acts of kindness could create ripples of change. And so he pressed on, driven by a simple yet powerful belief that together we are stronger. As the initiative continued to evolve, Leo found himself reflecting more deeply on the ripple effects of kindness. He had always believed in the power of small actions, But now he was witnessing firsthand how those actions could grow into something far greater than he had ever imagined. Every repaired car, every shared lesson, and every moment of encouragement seemed to spark a chain reaction, inspiring others to pay it forward in their own unique ways. The stories that came back to him were proof of this. A mechanic in another state who started offering free oil changes for veterans, a group of teenagers building bicycles for underprivileged kids, and even a retired teacher organizing workshops to teach basic car maintenance to women. One day, as Leo sat in his garage reviewing plans for a new training module, a familiar face walked in. It was Jake, the teenager who had once felt lost and directionless. Now, barely 2 years later, Jake stood tall and confident, dressed in a crisp uniform bearing the logo of a prestigious automotive institute. "Leo, I got the scholarship," he announced, his voice trembling with excitement. Leo rose from his chair, a wide grin spreading across his face. "I knew you could do it," he said, pulling Jake into a proud embrace. For Leo, moments like these were the true measure of success, not the awards or media attention, but the lives transformed through hard work and belief. Jake's achievement marked a turning point for the initiative. It demonstrated that the program wasn't just about fixing cars. It was about empowering individuals to rewrite their futures. Inspired by Jake's story, Leo and Marcus decided to expand the scholarship opportunities, partnering with technical schools and universities to provide pathways for aspiring mechanics. They also introduced mentorship programs, where seasoned professionals guided students through both their academic and personal challenges. These efforts created a pipeline of talent, ensuring that communities would have skilled individuals ready to step up when needed. But as the initiative grew, so did the complexities. Managing operations across multiple locations required meticulous planning and coordination. Supplies needed to be sourced, schedules aligned, and budgets balanced. At times, the sheer scale of it all felt overwhelming. Leo, who had always preferred working with his hands rather than dealing with logistics, struggled to adapt. There were days when he questioned whether he was the right person to lead such an ambitious project. Yet every time doubt crept in, someone would remind him of why he was doing this: a grateful customer, a smiling apprentice, or even a note from Marcus thanking him for his perseverance. Marcus, too, faced his share of challenges, balancing the demands of running a global corporation with overseeing the grassroots initiative tested his resolve. Late-night meetings and endless emails became a regular part of his routine. But unlike before, when stress might have consumed him, Marcus found solace in the purpose behind his work. Visiting Leo's garage, rolling up his sleeves to assist with repairs, or simply chatting with customers reminded him of what truly mattered. "You keep me grounded," he told Leo one evening as they sat outside watching the sunset. "This place reminds me why I started my company in the first place." Their partnership continued to thrive, built on trust and mutual admiration. While Leo brought authenticity and heart to the table, Marcus contributed vision and expertise. Together, they navigated obstacles, celebrated victories, and learned from failures. One particularly challenging phase involved addressing concerns raised by some participants who felt disconnected from the program's mission. Feedback revealed that while the resources and training were valuable, the human element, the sense of belonging and community, sometimes got overshadowed by administrative tasks. Determined to rectify this, Leo and Marcus implemented measures to ensure that relationships remained at the forefront. They encouraged open communication, organized team-building activities, and emphasized the importance of listening to participants' needs. Through these efforts, the initiative regained its soul, reaffirming its commitment to fostering genuine connections. People began referring to it not as a corporate-funded project, but as a movement driven by love and compassion. In one town, residents took ownership of the local garage, renaming it Leo's Corner, in honor of the man who had inspired them. The name stuck, spreading to other locations until Leo's Corner became synonymous with hope and resilience. Despite the accolades, Leo remained humble. He often joked that he was just a mechanic trying to make ends meet, though everyone around him knew better. His humility only endeared him further to those whose lives he touched. One memorable incident occurred during a visit to a rural community. A farmer approached Leo after a repair session, holding out a basket of fresh produce. "We don't have much, but we wanted to thank you," the man said gruffly, avoiding eye contact. Leo accepted the gift graciously, moved by the gesture. Later that evening, as he unpacked the basket, he discovered a handwritten note tucked inside. "Because of you, we believe again," it read. Those simple words stayed with him long after the trip ended. Even as the initiative gained international recognition, Leo refused to lose sight of his roots. He made it a point to return to his hometown regularly, ensuring that his original garage remained a safe haven for those in need. On weekends, he still rolled up his sleeves and worked alongside his team, cracking jokes and sharing meals. To him, the garage wasn't just a workplace, it was home. It represented everything he stood for: hard work, kindness, and the belief that no one should be left behind. The impact of Leo's philosophy extended beyond mechanics and garages. Schools began incorporating lessons on empathy and service into their curricula, inspired by his example. Local businesses adopted similar models, prioritizing community welfare over profits. Even government officials took notice, implementing policies aimed at supporting grassroots initiatives. Slowly but surely, the culture of giving back became ingrained in society, creating a ripple effect that transcended generations. One of the most remarkable outcomes of this cultural shift was the emergence of young leaders eager to carry the torch. Teenagers who had grown up watching Leo's journey stepped forward, proposing innovative ideas to tackle pressing issues. Some focused on environmental sustainability, converting old vehicles into eco-friendly models. Others addressed social inequalities, providing free services to marginalized groups. Each new endeavor bore the unmistakable mark of Leo's influence: compassion coupled with action. Yet amidst the progress, Leo never forgot the lessons he had learned along the way. He understood that change didn't happen overnight, and that setbacks were inevitable. When a flood damaged several garages participating in the initiative, forcing them to temporarily shut down, Leo rallied support to rebuild. He organized fundraisings, coordinated volunteer efforts, and personally visited affected sites to offer guidance. His presence alone was enough to rekindle hope, reminding people that they weren't alone in their struggles. By the end of the year, the initiative had reached unprecedented heights, impacting millions of lives worldwide. Conferences were held. In Leo's honor, documentaries chronicled his journey and awards lined the shelves of his office. But none of these achievements compared to the quiet satisfaction he felt, knowing that he had stayed true to himself. For Leo, the real reward lay in the smiles of strangers, the laughter of children, and the knowledge that he had played a part in making the world a little brighter. As the sun set on another busy day, Leo stood outside his garage, gazing at the horizon. The sky glowed orange and pink, casting a warm light over the bustling street. Around him, life carried on as usual, customers chatting, apprentices tinkering with engines, neighbors exchanging greetings. It was a scene he had witnessed countless times before, yet it never failed to fill him with gratitude. Here in this small corner of the world, he had found his purpose. And though the road ahead promised challenges, he faced it with unwavering optimism, knowing that together anything was possible. As the years rolled by, Leo's legacy continued to grow, weaving itself into the fabric of countless lives. What had started as a simple act of kindness in a small-town garage had blossomed into a global movement that transcended borders and cultures. Yet despite its vast reach, the initiative remained rooted in the principles that defined Leo: humility, compassion, and an unshakable belief in the power of community. These values weren't just words. They were lived truths, embodied by everyone who participated in the program. One crisp winter morning, Leo received a letter from a young girl named Amina, living in a remote village halfway across the world. Her handwriting was careful but uneven, betraying her age and limited access to education. In the letter, she described how her father, the sole breadwinner for their family, had fallen ill and could no longer work. Their only source of income, dilapidated truck used to transport goods, had broken down, leaving them stranded. Desperate, Amina had written to Leo's corner, hoping against hope that someone would help. Enclosed with the letter was a faded photograph of the truck, its rusted frame held together by patches of duct tape. Touched by Amina's courage, Leo immediately sprang into action. He reached out to local partners in the region, coordinating efforts to repair the vehicle and provide additional support for the family. Within weeks, not only was the truck running smoothly, but Amina's father had also been connected with medical resources to aid his recovery. When Leo received a follow-up letter from Amina months later, filled with gratitude and sketches of her dreams for the future, he couldn't help but smile. It was moments like these that reminded him why every challenge was worth overcoming. Stories, like Amina's, became a testament to the initiative's enduring impact. Across continents, people inspired by Leo's philosophy were creating their own versions of Leo's Corner. In one city, a group of women mechanics formed a cooperative to empower female drivers, offering free safety workshops and discounted repairs. In another, a retired engineer converted his workshop into a space where children could experiment with robotics and engineering. Each project bore its unique stamp, yet all shared the same heartbeat, a desire to uplift others through skill and service. Back home, Leo's original garage stood as a symbol of resilience and possibility. Though it had expanded significantly over the years, with modern equipment and state-of-the-art facilities, it retained its cozy charm. The wooden bench outside remained a favorite spot for customers and neighbors to gather, swapping stories and sharing laughter. On weekends, the space transformed into a bustling hub of activity, hosting events ranging from car maintenance classes to art exhibitions, showcasing local talent. For many, it wasn't just a place to fix cars. It was a sanctuary where dreams took flight. Even as his responsibilities multiplied, Leo made it a point to stay involved in the day-to-day operations. Whether it was mentoring apprentices, troubleshooting complex repairs, or simply chatting with customers, he approached each task with the same level of dedication. His presence was a constant source of inspiration, reminding everyone around him that leadership wasn't about standing apart but walking alongside others. "We're all in this together," he would often say, echoing the mantra that had guided him since the beginning. Marcus, too, remained deeply invested in the initiative, though his role had evolved over time. No longer content to observe from afar, he immersed himself fully in the program's activities, using his influence to advocate for policies that supported grassroots innovation. At corporate meetings, he spoke passionately about the importance of empathy in business, urging colleagues to prioritize humanity over profit. His transformation was evident to those who knew him best. Gone was the hard-edged CEO obsessed with numbers. In his place stood a man driven by purpose and connection. Their friendship had deepened over the years, forged through shared experiences and mutual respect. Marcus often joked that Leo had taught him more about life than any business school ever could. "You've shown me what true success looks like," he once said during a quiet evening at the garage. Leo chuckled softly. "Success isn't mine to claim, Marcus. It belongs to everyone who's poured their heart into this." The bond between them extended beyond work. They celebrated milestones together, birthdays, holidays, and even personal victories like Jake graduating at the top of his class. During difficult times, they leaned on each other for support, weathering storms side by side. Their partnership was a testament to the idea that greatness isn't achieved alone. It's nurtured through collaboration and trust. As the initiative entered its 10th year, plans were underway to host a grand celebration honoring everyone who had contributed to its success. The event, held in Leo's hometown, drew participants from around the globe. Mechanics, volunteers, students, and community leaders gathered under a sprawling tent, decorated with banners bearing the slogan, "Together we rise." Speeches were delivered, awards handed out, and heartfelt stories shared. But the highlight of the evening came when Marcus took the stage to announce a new chapter in the initiative's journey. "We've accomplished so much," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But there's still more to do. Today, I'm proud to unveil the Leo Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to continuing this work for generations to come. Cheers erupted as the crowd absorbed the news. The foundation would focus on expanding access to vocational training, funding innovative projects, and supporting underserved communities worldwide. Its mission statement was simple yet profound: empowering individuals to build better futures for themselves and for others. When it was Leo's turn to speak, he stepped up to the microphone with characteristic humility. "I never set out to change the world," he admitted, pausing to let his words sink in. "All I wanted was to help people, to fix what was broken and give them a chance to move forward. But along the way, something amazing happened. You showed me that kindness is contagious, that one act can inspire another, and another, until the whole world begins to shift." His voice cracked slightly as he continued. "None of this would have been possible without you, without your courage, your creativity, your willingness to believe in something bigger than yourselves. So thank you for trusting me, for working alongside me, and for proving that together, we are stronger." The audience erupted into applause, many wiping away tears. As Leo stepped back, Marcus wrapped an arm around his shoulders, pulling him close. "You did it, my friend," he whispered. "This is your moment." Leo shook his head, smiling faintly. "No, Marcus. This is our moment. Ours and everyone who believes in the power of kindness." In the days following the celebration, life returned to its usual rhythm. Leo woke early, brewed coffee, and opened the garage to greet the day. Customers streamed in, bringing with them stories of triumphs and challenges. Apprentices tinkered with engines, learning skills that would shape their futures. Outside, children played, their laughter mingling with the hum of activity. It was a scene Leo had witnessed countless times before, yet it never failed to fill him with gratitude. Reflecting on the past decade, Leo realized that his greatest achievement wasn't the accolades or recognition. It was the knowledge that he had stayed true to himself, even when the world tried to pull him in different directions. He had built something lasting, not with bricks and mortar, but with love and determination. And while the road ahead promised challenges, he faced it with unwavering optimism, knowing that he wasn't alone. Years later, when historians wrote about the movement that changed the world, they wouldn't focus solely on Leo's name or accomplishments. Instead, they would highlight the spirit of unity that defined it, the belief that no matter how big the problem, it could be solved if people came together. They would talk about the mechanic who fixed cars with his hands and hearts, inspiring millions to do the same. And they would remember the lesson he had taught them, that even the smallest acts of kindness could spark a revolution. For Leo, the journey was far from over. Each sunrise brought new opportunities to make a difference, to remind people that hope was always within reach. And so he pressed on, driven by a simple yet powerful truth, that together, anything was possible.